What is up, ladies and gents? Gata Gaming here, back with another video. Today we are going to be talking about one factor that has been running through every single person's mind, and that is specifically power creep. Now, my view on power creep, and I'll make it as simple as possible so we can make this video as short as possible, is that there is a form of power creep in Honkai Star Rail, but is every single character that comes out needed for you to be able to accomplish what is there at the moment? No, and I'll give you proof of that. At the moment, one of the characters that has actually come out in the game, I don't have it on this account, but one of the characters that has come out in the game, I think if I go data bank, yeah, one of the characters that has come out in the game at the moment is actually the Herta. Now, the Herta has completely dominated the space in terms of damage, AoE. She changes the whole principle of the game just with her own quality of life changes and her own kit. But the question becomes, you know, is she really needed for you as an account? Is she really needed for you to progress faster? Is she needed for you to be able to enjoy the game better? Obviously, now you have the addition of Algaea, who is a remembrance character, completely new to the game due to the fact that obviously she has the memo sprite specifically. But at the end of the day, this video is to show you and prove to you that yes, there's an essence of power creep, but it's not really as bad as people are putting it out to be. And again, yes, there is an essence of power creep, but it's not as bad as they say it is. If you look at something like Genshin, yeah, Genshin Impact has had one character, and we are God knows on what patch, not the Natlan patch of this game. I think it's 5.0 if I'm not wrong, maybe correct me, but we are so far into the story, and there's one character who keeps coming up into, you know, how there's actually just no power creep. At some point, it's Bennett. Bennett has never been able to be replaced, and Bennett is a 4-star character released on version 1.0 of Genshin Impact, right? And up till now, he is a staple of basically every single damage comp in Genshin Impact. So, in general, this account, as you can see, and what I'll show you is that I mostly invested in the characters, specifically my DPS characters, invested in them in terms of their eidolons, compared to basically getting different characters as much as I could and trying to build teams around my DPS characters rather than just get any character that comes out and, you know, waste all my Primo Gems or waste all my Stellar Jade, and basically I'm left with nothing if this one major big character comes out, right? And then depending on whether that character is now going to be viable for another character, I'll save up for that character. So a good example is that I am actually now saving up for Fugue and Jiaoqiu, because Jiaoqiu is going to be really good specifically for my Acheron. Now, what I'm going to show you here is, let me go to my data bank. I think if I'll be able to sort of show it better here. Let's go to Nihility. If it shows my eidolons even better. Perfect. Okay, so I have two major damage dealers on my account. I have my Acheron and I have my Firefly, and my Firefly is obviously now at E2. Now, the reason why I feel Firefly is also quite a really busted character is the fact that Firefly completely changes the game with her general talent skill, which enables her to basically input or put a fire weakness on the character or on the enemy. So when you actually use your skill, or you use your specifically when you use your ultimate and then you use your skill, it enables you to actually put in a fire break weakness onto the enemy. And this move specifically also geared with the fact that she has on her E2 the ability to go twice or one extra turn upon breaking an enemy weakness or defeating an enemy. It completely changes the game, because this puts into perspective that you are able now to put Firefly into a team or beat an enemy that does not have a fire weakness, or at least is not weak to fire, and be able to implement that fire weakness for Firefly to deal damage. On top of the fact that obviously now she has a team dedicated to her, being obviously now you have your, so if we go here, you have your Firefly in your team. Then you have your Trailblazer. I don't know where my trail. You have your Harmony Trailblazer, and then you have obviously Ruin May for the efficiency break, and then maybe a healer. Now, obviously, the healer is where things get a bit diffy. If you don't have this character here, Ling Sha, I kid you not, Gallagher is such a good pick and a good sustainable pick if you build him right in terms of speed and break effect, and he is able to take you very far with the Firefly team. But now it's reached the point where I'm not really interested in getting them to E6. E2 is a very good standpoint, specifically for Acheron. E4 I feel is where she kind of now completely is a good stopping stool specifically, whereas with Firefly I've kind of stopped her at E2 and it's very good. Now I'm sort of now finishing her team. So now I have Firefly, I have Ling Sha, and I'm going to get Fugwe, because honestly the Acheron team, irrespective of not having what's his name, Jiao Q, this team works very well. On top of the fact that if you are able to actually get adventuring at Eidolon 2 and get his light cone, he actually enables through his E2 a debuff on the enemy, which counts as a stack for Acheron. On top of the fact that, you know, if you get adventuring to E2, you pretty much don't even need any other healer or sustainer ever again on your account. My personal opinion, my honest personal opinion, is that if you have a Firefly team with Ling Sha and you have an Acheron team with adventuring, you do not ever have to summon for another sustain unit ever again, because adventuring E2 with his light cone completely breaks the game with his shields. Every single time he launches his ultimate, he gets a full stack of his shield again, equal to 100% on top of what is already put in terms of a shield. And then obviously when you have your E2, does an all type resistance, all type reduction, or reduces the target's all type resistance by 12% for 3 turns. Let's not lie, that's a big that's a big buff, right, for E2. So in terms of sustain, I'd say like if you're able to get Firefly to E2, you don't even need Ruin May to E2, E1 with a Lycon. If you can get Firefly to E2 and then now start building her team around her, now being your Ruin May, your Ling Sha, and then obviously you can also keep the Trailblazer, but now obviously we're going into a space where the Trailblazer is being used for other units, specifically for the Remembrance. But now if you can sort of first build Firefly, in fact if anything, Firefly should be one of the main priority characters that you ever build in this game, because Firefly with her E2 specifically completely changes and dominates the game. She can one put, one shot, one hit any single boss, specifically if you have her built very well. So now from there you kind of now get a Fugwe, and with a Fugwe on this team, this team becomes complete, even not even at high investment. As long as Firefly is at E2, then you can start now working on the rest, being now some Eidolons, maybe Eidolon 1, Eidolon 2. With Acheron, it's a bit different. With Acheron, obviously Bronya is you're going to have gotten Bronya at probably E2 at some point, or even E5 or E6 even by now. But if you can get Acheron at E2, it removes the necessity of you having obviously another Nihility unit for her to deal the 100% of her output damage. But Jiao Q seems to also be the best character for her to be able to build up stacks really fast. I'm not saying he's needed, but if you can get her to E2, this team works really well, because she's outputting, especially when you obviously do the advanced action with Bronya and then you go straight into an ult with Acheron. She's outputting damage numbers of even close to 1 million, which is even close to even what we're getting right now from our current characters and current new characters that are coming out specifically. So yeah, I mean, and I have been able to completely clear out majority of everything apart from actually apart from this, and that is because as much as I have a very well built team, Hoyoverse know what they're doing. What they do is that they create events, and specifically for Pure Fiction and specifically for Memory of Chaos, where the enemies are weak to that new character's weakness. right? Element specifically, and that sometimes can be a bit annoying, because now you see if I go to here, I don't really have a team that is mostly, you know, able to clear this out as quickly as, say, if I had a Bronya or the Herta specifically, right? And this is the team I'm working with, because you see I don't have a very good physical character, I don't have a very good physical unit, but on this first 2 waves, especially this wave where obviously as you can see they're fire resistance, the only character I have, maybe apart from, you know, him, and that's where the essence of power creep comes in. These old characters are not really going to be able to do anything much unless you're able to, you know, really invest in other 4-star characters that are able to really buff up these old characters, specifically this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in general, there are some 4-star characters that will always stay up to date. Obviously you have your Pella, who's just overall an amazing Nihility unit for Acheron. You have your Galaga, who's always going to be a very amazing unit for Firefly. You have your Herta if you obviously are able to build a team around Erudition. So, you know, at the end of the day, again, power creep is there, but my honest 2 characters that I feel from now experience that I've actually carried my account or so far without having to give up to this FOMO effect is actually Acheron and Firefly. Now unfortunately on this part here, I did end up on a slower kind of type of score, and that's obviously because, one, you know, as much as my Acheron is dealing damage, the moment I get to this phase here specifically, it becomes really hard for me to go through, because, one, you know, this person's fire resistance. But you know what, I've not tried interchanging this to see whether it makes a difference, which I'll obviously see. But yeah, I mean, and that's pretty much it. So what I'll say is, you know, when it comes to power creep, when it comes to Honkai Star Rail, specifically Honkai Star Rail, because I feel it's there, there is the essence of probably even just Emanator characters are probably going to always be better. But you see, when you have someone like Firefly who completely just changed the game in terms of she's the only like she's the only proper, you know, destruction break effect character who has an eidolon that completely changes the game and has a talent that completely changes the game in general. So, and obviously she has a lot of speed. You know, most of these other characters, you have to sort of have a support that boosts them up, or is able to boost them up as many times as possible. But with Acheron and other specific attack units, you sort of either have to sacrifice, you know, speed for more attack, or sacrifice attack for more speed. But even then, if you sacrifice attack for more speed, there's a probability that you might actually be sacrificing also your crit rate and crit damage. So yeah, I mean, the break team was such a good meta, I feel, for the game, because it did really change a lot of aspects in the game. But yeah, and my honest opinion from this whole, you know, aspect is that power creep does exist in Honkai Star Rail. There's no denying it. But what you can do as a free-to-play player specifically is save as much as you can. See which character is going to be good for you specifically, and don't just get. You see, right now, if I got Boot Hill, he would probably work on this account. But for most people, you know, you don't have a Ruin May, right? You don't have a Ruin May. You probably don't have a good healer. You probably don't have a good support, and in general, I would not need majority of these characters on this account, and I'll tell you why. First of all, Agalea is actually only good. Well, she's good, but I'd feel you'd have more damage output in numbers if you were able to, if you had Sunday in the team, or Sunday on your account. Another character who's actually really good with her is, if you had Robin as well on your account, it should be really good. And you see, so there'd be no need, as much as there's so much FOMO. She's new, she has this new animation, she looks beautiful, the character's amazing. I feel from a free-to-play perspective, you just have to try and you have to learn how to sort of hold in that urge of summoning, and only summon. My rule of thumb, only summon if you're able to get this to about like 300. If you have like 300 stellar passes, trust me 100%, you are able to get a character to E2, and if you're lucky enough, probably even get whoever is actually on the same banner or the same rotation and get them at least with their weapon and stuff. That's my rule of thumb. Only summon when you're able to, when you have like 300 pulls. The only reason why I actually went away from this rule is because I did really need, there's some content that came out before and my Galaga was just not doing it at all, and Link Sharp basically became the most effective unit that I could think of. And at that time I actually had 200 pulls. So technically, and I was also losing the 50-50, so I was actually very lucky to get her light cone as well. But yeah, my rule of thumb is if you only summon when you're able to, when you have about 300 stellar passes, because it enables you to summon for anyone as hard as possible and get both either, you know, Eidolon 1, 2, or get the Lycon. And that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.